Gamers can play out war scenes that other people are experiencing the horrors of in real life. In Death from Above, players can fly military drones and slip into the role of a Ukrainian drone pilot. Does this help send a message, or does it actually just downplay human suffering? What role do games play in the information war? That's our topic on Shift this week. There are currently over 3 billion active gamers worldwide. Most are in Asia and Europe. Multiplayer shooters are especially popular, where you battle it out with many other players. Fortnite, Valorant, and Counter-Strike alone have over 260 million logins a month. So the combination of action, team play, and tactics still continues to draw gamers in. And there's even a small but loyal fan community for shooters in historical war scenarios, like the Second World War. But now even raging wars, like in Ukraine, are being used as a backdrop to sell games. In the game Ukrainian Farmy, players tow away plundered Russian tanks with a tractor, as it has happened in real life. Glory to the Heroes, currently in development, sends gamers right into battle in Ukraine. And there's another special Ukraine war game from Germany that aspires to be more than just a game.
In Death from Above, users play a Ukrainian soldier operating a drone. The goal? To kill Russian enemies. The political activists behind Lesser Evil had the idea to publish a game in this setting. The Munich startup wants to release games with clear political or social intent. The game Death from Above was developed in cooperation with Ukrainian artists. According to the publisher, 30% of net proceeds from the game will go towards organisations supporting Ukraine to purchase relief goods or night optics equipment for the military. Once the game breaks even, 70% of the net proceeds will be donated. The donations will be split between Come Back Alive and Army of Drones and are meant for aid programs only. The founder views it as political activism.
Games have the potential to be so much more. We want to express ourselves as artists, but also as citizens. In the end, the game is a clear statement from us.
The ongoing brutal war in Ukraine has been made the setting of a realistic game, and this has sparked many discussions offside the battlefield. Experts question what impact a game like this will and should have on players. Do they identify with the Ukrainian troops? How does the game affect people's perception of the war?
The first reaction to this is, of course, it is perhaps a bit tasteless to depict an ongoing war in a game that is relatively trivial. And of course, this runs the risk of being reduced to an entertainment product.
Images of war fascinate many people, which is why mainstream shooter games focus on this topic. Call of Duty Black Ops take place in the Vietnam War. Battlefield 1942, Hell Let Loose, and many more games depict the events of World War II. But these wars happened decades ago, which offers some distance and historical context. Yet, Death from Above setting is in the present, and not everyone likes that. Discussions about whether such games are ethical go beyond the online world. People directly affected by the war in Ukraine also have differing opinions on the matter. It would bother me as an expert if the game incited violence against civilians. But if a game like this only shows the situation on the battlefield, with soldiers against soldiers, I don't see any problem.
In real life, soldiers serving in war aren't always there by choice, and they risk losing their lives at any moment. So the question is it really okay to shoot at people in video games then? Experts' opinions on the topic vary strongly. And in computer games like Death from Above, the war aims of one party can be portrayed very positively. At the same time, the soldiers on the other side can deliberately be shown as dehumanized.
The game plays a role in the information war between Russia and the Ukraine too.
I'm not at all afraid to say that this is a propaganda game.
In the actual war, both sides constantly try to control public opinion worldwide. Most of that work is being done online, with misinformation or trying to sway people by appealing to their emotions.
Part of these efforts is propaganda we know from everyday life. Memes, videos, and GIFs, for example. In my opinion, this game joins this culture, making it part of an ongoing information war.
Whether they view this propaganda positively or not, players need to be aware of it and its impact. Gamers often strongly identify with their avatar and emotionally engage with its cause. So this could reinforce anti-Russian sentiment, especially if there's a lack of historical context and experience.
In Death from Above, players are supposed to get a virtual impression of the war in Ukraine and provide financial support for the country. In Russia, the war is only allowed to be called a special operation. But wargames are still allowed, even the US shooter game Counter-Strike. And that's why journalists from the Finnish daily newspaper Helsingin Sanomat seized the opportunity and hid information about the war in Ukraine in the game for Russian players to find. To do this, they had a special Counter-Strike level programmed, where players can conquer a secret room full of documents and articles, for instance about the Russian war crimes in Bucha and Irpin. But it's hard to know how many Russian players have actually found the room so far. Instead of a room or a building, the organization Reporters Without Borders has put together a whole palace. This uncensored library is used to spread access to banned news stories in countries that restrict access to information and internet. It circumvents censorship and defends freedom of press. The project has had a lot of success since its debut in 2020, all virtually in Minecraft.
This library is virtual and consists of over 12 million blocks. A 24-person team worked on it and invested over 250 hours in the project. They were pursuing one goal: to provide free access to information, even in countries where censorship generally prevails.
We opted for Minecraft because it's a game played worldwide by over 100 million players. And at the same time, it's a game available in nearly every country in the world, unlike many media sources and websites that are, unfortunately, censored.
There are now over 200 books in the library, with publications by journalists from the most oppressive countries in the world, like Russia, Egypt, or Vietnam. Some of the authors whose work is included here have even paid for it with their lives. In the Saudi Arabia wing, there are publications by Jamal Khashoggi, a staunch critic of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. In 2018, he was killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. The Crown Prince denies his involvement in the murder to this day. The Uncensored Library casts a spotlight on the unfortunate fates of people like Mr. Khashoggi. It's constantly being updated. The latest additions are rooms for Brazil, Belarus, Eritrea, and Iran. What's more, there's no easy way to block the library or take it down, because Minecraft and the Uncensored Library run on different servers worldwide. The library would probably even survive internet access being blocked, as it has been in the past by authoritarian regimes.
The map is available even offline, meaning you can download it on the campaign website, and the great thing is that players can upload it again themselves, meaning even if our original server were to be blocked, there would still be over 300,000 more libraries in existence.
The developers of both the Uncensored Library and games like Death from Above are trying to give users a wake-up call. But what means are allowed, and what ethical considerations must be taken into account? Because even if there may be noble intentions behind them, safeguards need to be in place for younger audiences, for instance. And the developers of the Uncensored Library had to take special precautions too.
We tried to use content suitable for young people, but unfortunately it wasn't always possible in certain cases. like the war in Ukraine, because it's so brutal. So we added a warning, enabling parents to contact us if they are around when children are playing, so then we can give them further context.
The Uncensored Library from Reporters Without Borders also manages to avoid depicting violence in the game world itself. But in war games like Death from Above or the Ukraine shooter Glory to the Heroes, players explicitly have to inflict virtual violence to do well in the game. But as long as the developers don't incite real-life violence, they are in compliance with the law. But that doesn't necessarily make their work ethical. Research shows there is still little awareness of such ethical aspects in the gaming industry, in part because the sector is still quite young, and in game development, time and money are often tight. But researchers say it is important to take into account moral values in development, such as freedom, respect, and human dignity. In games based on real-life events, the realistic representation of facts play an important role, not just for players, but for the people involved and witnesses. The new game 6 Days in Fallujah attempts this tightrope walk. Players are transported to Iraq in 2004 in a historical US operation against Al-Qaeda fighters in the city of Fallujah. The developers interviewed over 100 US soldiers and 26 Iraqis to give eyewitness accounts. But they still faced scathing criticism, as the title focuses on the North American perspective. But the researchers also recommend encouraging ethical gameplay. Games like Call of Duty reward players when they avoid harming civilians. Last but not least, developers should also critically examine their own system of values. These could also unintentionally get incorporated into a new game.
Games can depict real-life events with a political or moral framework, but developers should clearly disclose their stance and their sponsors. What do you think of war games featuring current events and the use of concealed information in games? Send us a message and let us know. That's it from me today. Bye and see you next time.